Well, thank you, Robert, for having me here to represent the musicians. And thank you, everybody, for coming out and for this unveiling of what we think is going to be a very exciting 90th season for the orchestra. And really, I can't overestimate the fact that Robert talked about collaboration here, and that one of the strengths of the Portland Symphony Orchestra is that in many areas of how we run this orchestra and perform, we collaborate amongst the different parties, amongst all the stakeholders in the orchestra, be it Robert, the music director, the musicians on stage, the board members, the staff, because we're all in this together. We're all on the same ship, and we're all looking for the same goals. So I've been principal timpanist since the fall of 1999. And besides that, I've been very involved in many of these other collaborative groups, and artistic planning has probably been one of the most exciting things I have been involved with. I've always been very interested in how we chart the orchestra's future, repertoire-wise, artistically, what we're going to play for the audience, what we're going to try to challenge our own orchestra with. And I think a very important thing to consider from my perspective, a musician's perspective, when I go into these discussions we have about planning a season, is what kind of orchestra am I representing behind me in the meetings, the members on stage? And I know you read about the bios on the website, or mostly you see what we do on stage, but it's always important to remember just how lucky this city is and orchestra, the community is, to have the quality orchestra we put on stage. I have, amongst us in the orchestra, you have members who are regular substitutes with the Boston Symphony, with the Boston Pops, play in other groups like Boston Ballet, Lyric Opera, other regional orchestras like the Rhode Island Philharmonic or the Springfield Symphony out in Western Massachusetts. Also, great educators, people that are involved in very reputable, strong music programs in schools and universities in Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. So not only is that a tremendous amount of talent that's coming to the stage to perform these works, but it's also an amazing resource of knowledge, of experience, that I can tap into, and I hear their comments, and Robert hears their comments about what they think our seasons should look like. So going into planning for the 90th season, definitely there was a lot of thought about what can we do to really feature the orchestra to the community, that be the big deal for our 90th season. And certainly, as I just kind of, I think we've got really top to bottom a great season here, and I'm just going to touch on a few things that really do stand out to me as really exciting things that we'll be doing. Certainly, the Janacek Mass is just going to be an amazing piece. Interestingly enough, it doesn't get done too often, and I dare say probably a majority of the orchestra has never played the piece yet, but or a lot of audience may not be as familiar with the piece, but certainly Janacek's known for Sinfonietta as probably one of his most popular orchestral works, but that kind of stuff echoes in the Mass, and it's just a very powerful work, and I think it's a great way to start the season where you have a very virtuosic piece for the orchestra, a great piece for the chorus to sing, and the organ will be back for the big organ solo, which is in the second to last movement of the work. Moving on from that, certainly Robert is correct. If you ask 10 musicians, what's your favorite Shostakovich symphony, you'll probably get 10 different answers. And I know we we had a lot of discussion about what would be the right Shostakovich symphony, but all 15 symphonies are great symphonies. And I think it should be a long-term goal for the orchestra that over time we end up doing all 15 symphonies. So 12 being one of the, Shostakovich wasn't too common in programming his symphonies, but the 12 symphonies known as the Year of 1917, which he did dedicated in memory to Lenin, and it tells the story of the goings-on in 1917 for the revolution. I'm very much excited about then the next classical that will be featuring myself and 7 other colleagues, principal players on the Martin. That, again, is another work that doesn't get done too often, but it really is a great virtuosic work to show off the talents that are on stage. And then certainly to follow that up with Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, that is just known as one of the great orchestral works that shows off what an orchestra can do, and tremendously popular also with audiences. And then that gets us to another, I think, great project that the orchestra is going to be embarking on, which is going to be the 9 Beethoven symphonies over three seasons. And anytime, I mean, definitely in the 89, going on 90 years, this orchestra has at some point played all 9 Beethoven symphonies. But it takes a new dimension when an orchestra decides to set its mind to doing a Beethoven symphony cycle, be it if they try to do it in whatever specific amount of time they're going to do it. So that very much is a benchmark. It's a big deal, and certainly I think the way we've set out to design doing a project of a Beethoven symphony cycle, but also at the same time trying to fit all the other exciting things we want to try to get into a season. That's really another big challenge for the orchestra, that we have so many concerts in a season and we want to do so many different things, and how do you make it all fit, so to speak. So certainly starting out with doing Beethoven 6 and then Beethoven 3, as I don't need to say anything more beyond what Robert said about 3. And certainly my personal favorite, the 7th Symphony, which kind of gets regarded as Beethoven's symphony of rhythm, because there aren't really too many singable melodies in the 7th Symphony. You've just got a few very notable rhythmic figures that go through it, such as or, and that's kind of the whole symphony. So, and I had to throw that in. You had to at least get a musical example. And then certainly I have a lot of excitement and pride in what we're going to do for the gala. And I think where I got this idea initially, at least to put on the table, was the fact that, and one of the, I think, great things about this orchestra I've always noticed, and I actually noticed it before I was a member. I subbed as a percussionist for a few years before I became the timpanist, is that there's very much a family sense about the members of the orchestra. This is an orchestra that really looks out for each other. That it's we play together. We spend a lot of time with each other, partly because half the orchestra stays in this hotel when we're here, so we see a lot of each other. But that is not always the common thing in the orchestra industry. There are a lot of orchestras where people, they show up, they do their job, they play the music, and everyone goes away. And that's one type of orchestra. And then you have other orchestras that they play together, but they also care about one another and very involved in each other's artistic lives and personal lives, and ultimately that shows up in the kind of product you get on stage. So in that sense, since this has always been an orchestra that has prided itself in its family type atmosphere amongst all of us, and pride in the history of the orchestra, we thought that maybe bringing back some of the conductors who have helped raise this orchestra to what Robert now gets to conduct today would be a great way to kind of just cap the 90th season and celebrate just a great year. And certainly, as you can see on here, we've got some just great orchestral showpieces, right from Egmont to Fountains of Rome to, I'm sure Toshi will come up with a really great piece. And then, without a doubt, also Sprague's Zarathustra, which is just regarded as an incredibly, one of the great Strauss tone poems. And beyond the first 2 minutes that everybody knows from the movie, there's another 30 minutes of really good music. So I'm really excited about that. So I think it's something we can all be proud about, and really looking forward to.
Thanks, John.